My neighbors always ask me, "Hey Pete, how do you keep your yard so nice?"
Pete makes it simple with a Scott's Turf Builder feeding program. It's the best way to get the yard you want all year long, guaranteed. All it takes is 4 easy feedings. Just once in early spring, late spring, summer, and fall. Providing nutrition and weed control to keep your lawn lush and green.
So, now you know my secret.
This is a Scott's Yard. Pick up a Scott's Turf Builder program today.
Caught Offside with Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney.
Oh, yes! Caught Offside from the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney. What's up, brother?
How are you, man?
Doing great. Just great. How about you?
Busy day, busy show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a couple podcasts out for you, as is per norm.
You wouldn't say per usual. You'd say per norm.
No, I have to be different. This one, of course, that you're listening to right now, we're going to get into a lot of stuff about Zlatan Ibrahimovic and his move to the LA Galaxy. We've been expecting this for quite some time. It is now upon us. We got a couple great guys to join the program who can share some really cool insight into it. Philip O'Connor is going to join us. He's covered Zlatan for years. He's based out of Stockholm, Sweden. We'll hear from him in mere moments. And then Kevin Baxter of the LA Times covers the Galaxy, LAFC. He's got the LA angle covered. So we'll talk with both those guys in just a sec. But how's life?
Life's
I feel
good.
like I haven't seen you in ages. You've changed.
Why is it so long since we...
No, you're right. It's only been a week. I don't know.
Yeah, by the way, just can I throw in, we've got a great mailbag too.
Oh, good.
You always want to just kind of disenfranchise listeners. And
why would you say something
that's a terrible
like that?
That's a terrible thing to say. No, but we do have a good mailbag if because it's it's Zlatan heavy.
I'm stuffed right now. I actually feel truly like piggishly full because you live in New York. Katz's Deli.
Yeah.
They just delivered a ton of food here.
Oh, is there some still here?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
I just had a pastrami sandwich and a brisket sandwich and French fries.
But how can you not? Because their food is the best.
How do you... we were having an interesting conversation about... one of the guys was saying that they don't care for pastrami, which my head nearly exploded hearing those words. How do you power rank like deli meats?
Ooh.
I would go...
In the Italian league or in the general league?
Just whatever league you want to go in. I don't care.
I'm a big Italian meat fan.
Sure.
So the gabagool is right up there. Oh, absolutely amazing. The prosciutto.
Yeah, that's a great call.
Oof.
I think pastrami is my number one.
Is it real?
Yeah, and I don't have it very often. I feel like it's like a special occasions meat.
I don't have it enough either.
Yeah.
I reckon if there was a Serie A, it could be. It's in the Champions League spots for me anyway, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. Some of those Italian meats, chorizo, does that count or is that more of a sausage? Yeah, that's a sausage.
It's more of a sausage, but I mean, you can still put it in a sandwich.
Yeah, but prosciutto, that's a good call. Hey, you know what else is a good call? Zlatan Ibrahimovic moving to the LA Galaxy. We're going to hear from the experts in a sec, but what is your initial opinion of this?
I mean, my gut reaction was this is a step back in time to a previous way of operating.
Yes.
But on the other side to it, a very LA way of operating. And I suppose you have to kind of treat the LA market as different. Even though LAFC haven't taken that approach themselves, the Galaxy always have. And they're banking on that his knee is okay. If you want to forget about his 5 appearances this season, which were not notable for anything, and look at what he did last season prior to the injury, then it seems like a solid signing, a guy who looks after himself. The extent of the knee injury is what's interesting to me. How much will that inhibit him? And then my worry is this, Andrew, is that the players around him... Look, he's not as mobile as Robbie Keane was when Robbie Keane came to the league. And it would worry me that a player like him is going to end up having to drop deep to get the ball and turn, and he's going to be miles from goal, and we're not going to see the Zlatan that we saw not so long ago, actually. Look, they're not going to get 2012 Zlatan where he scores 4 goals against England at the Friends Arena in Stockholm. We're just not going to get that.
Well, how do you know that, though? I mean, now, look, I know the knee injury is something, but from everything we've heard from doctors' accounts of how he's progressed, I'm expecting Zlatan's knee to be healthy.
Okay.
I'm expecting him to be good. And so if you're going off of that assumption, we're only 1 year removed from this guy scoring 17 goals in 27 league games for Manchester United. I mean, he was one of the best players in the league last season. So that's only 1 year ago.
They wouldn't
why now he's going against inferior competition. So why are we to believe that he can't duplicate that sort of form in MLS?
I just think the knee injury at 26 is significant, can be gotten over. At 35, it's much, much different, and he's 36 now. It's a different thing. And also the lack of game time, playing time, worries me as well. And also the players around him. I mean, as much as you can disparage that United team from last season, and it wasn't great, that is a whole host of characters around him that are much, much better than what he's stepping into in Los Angeles. That's just a fact. And also as well, the injuries to other players means what kind of Galaxy team is he going to actually play in? And I just could see him cut a frustrated figure up front unless he gets the service he needs.
Well, you're right. They've been ravaged. I mean, we talked about it last week on the podcast. They were ravaged through injuries, through the international break. Now, I'm curious about that. How is he going to play? I don't know if he's necessarily a guy who's used to sharing that attacking spot up front. And, he's going to have to. I mean, it's going to be him and Kamara. I don't see Kamara sliding to the bench, and I don't see Zlatan coming here to take some sort of some role coming off the bench. They're both going to play, so I'm very curious how it's going to all work out on the field.
I think he can play in it too. My concern is not that. My concern is those in the middle of the park, those who are in the creative line for LA Galaxy, like Giovanni Dos Santos, players like that, Sebastian Lletget, getting the ball to him in an area where he can be Zlatan. And if they can, then we shouldn't have any worries. If we can and he's fit, he can produce.
He is really the ultimate wild card here, because now the sample size is large enough, especially with the Galaxy themselves, where you don't know some of these aging European stars. You just don't know which way it's going to go. Is it for the Galaxy? Is it going to go the Robbie Keane route, which was an incredible success, or is it going to go the Steven Gerrard route, which is kind of now being held up as one of the poster boy moves for why you don't go out and get these sort of aging players who are so icons with another club. I don't know. I don't know which way Zlatan is going to go on that.
But do you remember early last season where, in a moment of honesty and candor, Bastian Schweinsteiger kind of told us about the frustrations he had settling into the league in terms of
the travel,
but the passing on the field.
Oh, well, that too. Yeah, Gerrard was more about the travel, the heat, things like that.
Right. He should have figured out earlier before he even decided. And I always think that Gerrard decision was made in haste after he didn't get the reaction from the club to a new contract that he wanted. But in terms of what Schweinsteiger said, just those little frustrations where at the top level you'll get the ball on the foot that you want. Can you see in 90 degrees in Portland, Zlatan chasing a ball that's maybe 5-6 yards off its intended position?
You're so right. Like, I feel like Vegas needs to set, going into each Galaxy game, there needs to be a line for, okay, how many goals is Zlatan going to score? Are the Galaxy going to win? And how many eye rolls is Ibrahimovic going to have?
Our hands on hip moments, because let's be fair, he was rarely, now you have to go back to his early 20s before he was a guy who could run into the channels, if he was ever that. So.
But my favorite thing, I think, isn't necessarily going to be the way he reacts when things like that happen among his own team. It's, because of his stature and his ego, there's going to be guys on other teams in this league that also have huge egos that are going to want to take a run at him.
Right.
That's what I'm excited for.
Right. And look, we got some of the most GIF-worthy, meme-worthy stuff when he had his time in Paris and which coincided with Joey Barton's time at Marseille.
That's right.
And Joey Barton decided to mimic the size of his nose as he walked away from him, which was like, the two of them going at it was, what a clash of worlds. But look, I don't know. To say I'm not excited would be a lie. It's interesting to have a guy like him around. I just worry about what we're going to actually see.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Let's continue this conversation right now. As Zlatan to the United States, it's like the Beatles in some ways. I mean, he's that big.
If John, Paul, or Ringo had a duff knee.
Oh, wow.
I've gone there.
Oh, my God.
And they didn't come at 36 years of age.
Well, let's discuss this now with Philip O'Connor, sports journalist based out of Stockholm, Sweden. He's, of course, followed Zlatan for years, and we're lucky enough to have him on the program now. Philip, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm very well indeed, and thank you very much indeed for having me on.
Yeah, well, of course. Let's start with that evil joke that JJ just made about Zlatan's knee. I mean, he is 36 years old. He's coming off this knee injury. Just what exactly is MLS and the LA Galaxy getting here?
I honestly wish I could tell you, because that's the big secret at the moment. I don't know if JJ was telling you, but a couple of weeks ago, Zlatan called me up because he'd done a deal with an electronics company, and I tried to talk to him about the knee, and nobody knows anything about the knee. Nobody knows what the injury was, and nobody knows what the surgery was, and nobody knows what the status is. All we know is that he's tried to play a few games for Manchester United. The last one was on December 26th last year. It hasn't looked too good. He hasn't looked very mobile, so it's very, very difficult to say. But that said, Zlatan Ibrahimovic on one leg in MLS will probably still get a bunch of goals, because basically what they've signed is Kobe Bryant in cleats. This guy wants to win. He has such an enormous burning desire to win, and I don't think he would go to America just to build his brand. I think he wants to be on the field and he wants to lead that team to a championship.
Yeah, you're talking about brand building there, Philip. I wasn't going to start with this, but the fact that he's taking a massive pay cut, it's going to be $3 million over 2 years. Does that suggest to you that maybe there is in fact something else at play here, that there is a brand building exercise? Why are you so quick to dismiss that one?
Yeah, no, I'm not really sort of dismissing the brand building exercise. I think we've all expected for years, JJ, that he would come to MLS to try to sort of to create his brand and, to nourish it there in the United States of America. It's a huge market for him. It's a place where soccer is growing, but I think probably, you guys would obviously know better than me, but, there still wouldn't be a lot of household names in soccer outside of soccer fans in America. So there is that room for him to be there. And he is, until he joined Paris Saint-Germain, he probably was one of the most famous players in the world, up there with Lionel Messi, up there with Cristiano Ronaldo. But I have the opinion, and I've had it for a little while now, that Zlatan is looking to after his career, what he's going to do, how he's going to make money and that kind of thing. He's making a lot of deals here now with some gambling companies, with that technology manufacturer I mentioned. There's a car manufacturer in Sweden that he works with. So I think he's looking at his portfolio here. And I asked him about it. I said, okay, is this the end of you in a soccer shirt? Are we going to see you in a suit in the boardroom sometime soon, And he kind of laughed that off. But I do know, it seems to me that he has one eye on the future and what he's going to do afterwards. He seems to enjoy being in America. I know he's been there to visit many, many times. He's been to Las Vegas. He loves mixed martial arts and this kind of thing, So it wouldn't surprise me if he's trying to find a new string to his bow there and try to find out what opportunities are there. But again, I go back to this thing of him being such an amazing competitor. He went to France, to a league where it was reasonably easy to win with PSG, but winning wasn't enough for him. It had to be done the right way. And he was hammering guys on the training pitch and that kind of thing to get them to perform. And if LA Galaxy can even get 1 or 1.5 seasons of that kind of winning attitude there, it's going to be hugely beneficial to the growth of the club and the game there.
Philip O'Connor, sports journalist based in Stockholm, Sweden, joining us here on Caught Offside. I was going to ask you something, but I kind of want to expound on what you just said there about Zlatan and how he is with his teammates. I mean, he is now going to be a very, very large fish in kind of a small pond. I mean, the Galaxy have some big-name players by MLS standards, but nothing like Zlatan. Do you envision, just with his personality, him being an issue in that locker room, or do you think he'll fit in relatively seamlessly here?
Yeah, it's hard to say because, he's very much the alpha male. When he goes into a locker room, he takes over that locker room. So this is the thing. He famously told the PSG players in France, nobody talks to the media. He controlled the Swedish national team here with an iron fist when he was there. I didn't interview him for years because he basically didn't want to talk to anybody. So all he would do was mix zones. It's not like, in Europe, it's not like the way it is in the States where you can just walk into the locker room. I guarantee you if you walk into the locker room at the StubHub, he's not going to be there. He's not going to get out of the shower and talk to reporters. He's going to control that kind of thing. So in that way it will be difficult. But then, he has this very sort of controlling side, but he also has a very warm and generous side. I'm sure JJ will tell you about the time that Sweden beat Ireland in a qualifying game in Dublin, and I met him in the parking lot the following morning, and he was really warm and sort of genuine and generous about the fact that they just won, even to me, I've been following his career for the last 17 years. It was the 21st of April 2001 was the first time I saw him, and I've seen him sort of grow into this guy now, but he is very, very dominant, and he likes to protect his position within the locker room, and he's going to be the guy that everybody looks up to. But if you look at how he was at Manchester United recently with younger players like Paul Pogba, like Anthony Martial, like these guys, he's turned into a father figure rather than the big brother that everybody's scared of. It could go both ways. I'm hoping to see the father figure now in Los Angeles, definitely, because I've been to the club, I visited before. Chris Howe does great work with the reserve team now, and I really think that he could contribute to the club and to the winning culture that they have.
Philip, what's been the reaction in Sweden to the move? Has it been viewed as a kind of a retirement plan for Zlatan, or how has it been perceived?
It's a little bit of both. Zlatan is huge news here. Anything he does is going to make basically the front pages and the back pages at the same time. The announcement was absolutely massive. Every newspaper, every radio station would have been scrabbling around looking for stringers and correspondents there in Los Angeles who can cover his career. The TV company that currently owns the rights to the MLS were obviously dancing jigs of joy when he signed up there. They're expecting us to be staying up until late into the night here in Europe to watch him perform. French football, when he joined PSG, it went from being, something that nobody watched, not even the soccer nerds watched, to being one of the most watched leagues in the country. So he's still a huge story, and as long as he's still putting his football boots on and going on to the pitch, because the other thing is you never know what he's going to do when he gets out there, JJ. Some of the goals he scored that I've seen him score at the Friends Arena, bicycle kicks, goals from the halfway line, goals in the last second, goals in the last second of the last second of stoppage time, this kind of thing. So, he really is. He's a one-man show. So that's going to continue in Sweden. Even if it is viewed as a sort of a retirement home, one could argue that Paris Saint-Germain for 4 years with all those great players around him was also a retirement home. But the interest here will be the same as it ever was. It'll be at fever pitch the whole way.
Is it possible that he's making this move because he wants to be on a team where he can be assured of playing time to maybe work himself back into some level of form and maybe back onto the Swedish national team radar for the World Cup?
Yeah, this is a big thing. Zlatan, when I spoke to him, said, if I want to be there, I'll be there. He was absolutely categorical about this. He has a status here, just in terms of the sponsors, Andrew. The Swedish Football Association, they'd make millions of dollars if he came back. It's just that simple. That's how big his name is. If he puts it on, on a soft drink or whatever, they can basically name their price for that. But it's the dynamic again. As I said, he ruled the national team with an iron fist, and the tactics, everything was designed to suit him. Everything they did was designed to suit him. And it worked for better or worse. During his term in the team there, they qualified for the European Soccer Championships, but not so often for the World Cup. They missed it in 2010, they missed it in 2014 in Brazil, which I know he almost took personally. He really wanted to take part in that tournament in the spiritual home of soccer, and unfortunately it didn't happen for him. At 36, you have to ask, okay, who do they drop? Who do they take out of there? They don't have forwards that are going to meet that. So on a playing level, it'll definitely be the guy that they have to get back in there. But over the last sort of year and a half, since he retired after the European Championships from the national team in 2016, they've changed the way they've done things. They've opened things up much more. Again, it's very much the Swedish strength of the collective that saw them win the silver medal at the World Cup in 1958. They're back to that thing. So if you bring Zlatan in, that's going to have to change again. Just because he is like the Beatles. It is Beatlemania when he arrives here. So it would, this close to the tournament, 2, 3, 4 months away, it's going to be a huge change. And I don't know if they're going to be able to accommodate him in that. But from a playing perspective, like I say, Zlatan on one leg is a guy I'd want on my team every day of the week.
Philip, you mentioned before about Zlatan having this side of generosity, but let's all be honest with one another. That's just not what he's known for. His brashness, dare I say, his arrogance. I mean, that is the Zlatan that we're all familiar with. You've covered him for a long time. Do you have a favorite kind of Zlatan story of just like the ultimate Zlatan?
Yeah, I think it has to be the one about John Carew, the Norwegian international soccer player, who was comparing himself to Zlatan and saying, anything he can do, I can do. And Zlatan said, whatever he can do with a soccer ball, I can do with an orange. And that was just the most fantastic, most cutting, most destructive put down. And sure enough, John Carew ended up playing in Fulham and sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. And Zlatan went on to play for the biggest clubs in the world, But he's tremendous. And there are any amount of those lines, I think he said, came like a king, left like a god in Paris Saint-Germain. There's so many of these things that he said, and I guarantee you, he's going to fill the back pages, the sports pages there in the United States of America when he gets there. I think he lands on Thursday. He's going to speak to the media on Friday. So by the time he gets there, he's just going to fill the pages with quotes like that, because he really is very entertaining. There is a certain amount of arrogance about it. A lot of people in Sweden maybe didn't like it. A lot of people in Europe didn't like it. But he's kind of like Conor McGregor as well. If you can get a good headline out of him, everybody's going to love him for it.
Well, we've got our headline now. We've got the warm and generous side of Zlatan.
Nobody will believe that.
Nope. Well, hey, Philip, if you find yourself in the U.S. covering him, by all means, drop us a line. We'd love to meet up and have you on the show once again. Thanks so much for the time, man.
And thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, JJ, we go now from Stockholm. We take a long, long flight. What would that be? Probably about a 14-hour flight, maybe watch a few movies, and we land in L.A., where Kevin Baxter of the L.A. Times covers soccer there, the Galaxy, of course, among the teams. We'll also get to a little LAFC, LA Galaxy matchup this weekend, but we want to start with Zlatan. Kevin, what's up, man? How are you?
All right, how are you doing? And speaking of Zlatan, he's going to be taking a long flight tomorrow. I think he's actually coming from Manchester, but in any case, it's going to be a long flight to L.A.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And
well, let's start with. I'm curious for your take on this. We've seen just in observing MLS, it's obvious to anyone the way that clubs have kind of been moving away from these sort of moves. The past his prime, big name player. In fact, the Galaxy are probably one of the last teams to have gotten burned by that with Steven Gerrard. With that in mind, I'll ask you flat out: do you like this move for the team?
Yeah, burned. You can still smell the embers smoking when you go to the StubHub Center about the Steven Gerrard thing. Just a little background. When they finished the 2016 season, they had both Steven Gerrard and Robbie Keane on the bench to start that playoff game in Colorado, and management was fuming. That was $10 million of designated players sitting on the bench at the start of the biggest game of the year. Neither one of those players came back, and the Galaxy infamously last year embarked on a youth movement where they called players up from the academy and from their USL team. That led to an 8-18-2 record, or 8-18-8 record, the worst in franchise history. So they really went from one extreme to the other. Now they're coming back to what I kind of consider their mojo. This is, for better or for worse, the Galaxy is the franchise in MLS that attracts a lot of the big-name European stars. They're the ones that kind of gave life to the whole moniker of this being a retirement league by bringing some older European players over. They've had some pretty good success. Steven Gerrard aside, David Beckham turned out to be a very useful player. Robbie Keane may have been the best European player to play in MLS so far. Really did a good job when he was there. So yeah, they are kind of going back to the future in a little bit, and it is totally against the grain of what the rest of the league is doing. Zlatan is not a 36 years old coming off major knee surgery. He is not a designated player. In fact, part of the reason he's here is that I don't think any team would have passed up the contract deal that they got with him. But just to talk about the age thing, he's not a designated player, but of the last 35 designated players to come into the league, only Bastian Schweinsteiger was over the age of 30. And you see a lot of these young, especially South American players coming in here. These are guys who will tell you, when we're talking about Josef Martinez and Almiron and Diego Rossi with Los Angeles Football Club, these guys will all tell you they are on their way to Europe. This is a stop on their way. This is what maybe the Russian league used to be for a lot of South American players. So these are guys on their way up. They're young, dynamic, talented players. I think MLS for a while had this idea that they wanted to work on the game on the field and attract fans that way. I think the Galaxy kind of took a page from the old book and said, we're going to attract fans by bringing in a big-name player, even though he may be well past his prime.
Kevin, how much of this signing is to do with trying to wrench the limelight back to the Galaxy after it's been focused so heavily on LAFC and what they're doing and the star power they have?
I think it's a factor, but we know that they've been chasing Zlatan for 3 seasons now. They actually talked to him when he left PSG for Manchester United the first time. Zlatan signed a $26 million contract with Manchester United, so good deal for him. They thought they had him last year, right about the time he had the knee injury. That didn't work out for a number of different reasons, some of which are unclear, but I think Zlatan wanted to go back, prove that he hadn't been kicked out of Europe because of the knee injury, wanted to try to prove his fitness, and really wanted that Champions League title. That's one big reason why he went back to Manchester United. But now that all that's gone, now that Manchester United is not going to make the Champions League, now that they have other players like Alexis Sanchez and Pogba and some other players that weren't there when he came in, I think he felt like, it was a good time to leave. He could have gone anywhere. He could have gone to China. I guess he had some offers in the Middle East. Decided to come here. I think lifestyle had a lot to do with that. I think expanding his brand had a lot to do with that. The Galaxy are paying him $1.5 million a season for the next 2 seasons. So, yes, he's old and he has, has the knee problem, but I think signing Pele, and he's in his 80s, right, for $1.5 million would probably be a bargain. So I think that the Galaxy did a pretty good job there. I'm not buying the whole contract terms, though. I believe the Galaxy are only paying him $1.5 million, but I have to believe that there are some side deals, whether it's with Adidas or whether it's with clothing manufacturer or whatever. I just don't see Zlatan coming to a brand-new continent at 36 for $1.5 million. This is a guy that made $26 million a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, Kevin. You talk about what his salary is from the club, and before you mentioned the term brand as well, which we've heard a lot in pertaining to this move. From yourself, from Galaxy supporters that you're spoken with, is there skepticism around Zlatan that maybe he is or isn't here for the right reasons?
That's interesting. And by the way, on the contract thing too, one more thing that makes this an absolute no-brainer. And let's just, and I guess I kind of want to be clear on that. My sense is, let's say he never plays a minute, and he will play, but let's just say he never plays a minute. Just the bump that the Galaxy are getting, the attention. This is all TAM money. This isn't even their money. This is league money. So they essentially signed a guy like Zlatan for 2 years for free. I mean, any of us would do that in a heartbeat. Right. But the fans, if you look at the social media fan websites, everybody's asking, is he going to play this weekend? And apparently there's a Vegas odds maker that said an over-under of 21.5 goals that Zlatan will score this year in MLS. I mean, I'm not seeing that at all. The Galaxy have already said that he is not a 90-minute player, at least not right now. I think he's probably going to dress Saturday. I think he's going to take a seat on the bench and wave to the fans, and maybe if the game is out of hand late, they'll send him on to run around a little bit. But the fans are believing that this is the guy that's going to take them to the MLS Cup, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I just don't see that. I like the team the Galaxy had. I like the locker room they had. Ashley Cole has done a great job as captain and rebuilding the camaraderie in the locker room. I don't know how Zlatan affects that. He's going to be a force. He's one of the best players of his generation, and unless he goes out there in a wheelchair, I mean, I think just standing him in the box for set pieces, he's probably going to get a couple goals. But yeah, everyone's buying that this is a great strategic move, and this is a great personnel decision, and this is the guy that's going to turn it around. And I'm a little skeptical. I want to be proven. I want that to be proven to me first.
In reading your article on it, Kevin, it was interesting because there's a quote from Ibrahimovic that says, "I'm ready to go now." And what was curious to me was the next line. First of all, I'm there to play football. I'm not there for something else. My first objective is to play football and do what I'm good at. Now, for a professional footballer, it seems strange to belabor that point. Do you think that there's perhaps he's looking beyond his career and looking at advancing himself in LA in other areas?
He has spent a lot of time in LA. I don't know if he has a home here, but he does spend a lot of off-season time here. He's familiar with the city. He has talked about going into filmmaking in some way, but into Hollywood in some way at some point. I think he'd be really good at it, too. But every major European player that comes here says something similar to that. Steven Gerrard made that point over and over and over again, that he was coming here to play football and that he was coming here to win a title. Nigel de Jong said it. Ashley Cole said it. Whether they're coached to say that, whether they feel like people are already reading ulterior motives into their move over here, or whether they actually feel it, I don't know. But it's part of the script. When a European player comes to the Galaxy, they all say they're here to play football. And we do see them get into other things too. Why come to LA if you're not going to take advantage of some of the other opportunities that are here? You don't see these European players going to Kansas City or Salt Lake, so there is a reason they come to LA. But you're right. I mean, it does kind of raise eyebrows, the fact that every one of them, the first thing they say even before they get on the plane is, I'm coming there to play football.
Kevin, I want to ask you, we just had Philip O'Connor, a journalist from Stockholm, on, and I asked him this question, and I'm curious to ask you, because you're closer to this Galaxy team, obviously, than he is. Zlatan, even in a locker room like Manchester United's or PSG's, he is a force. You don't always know that he'll fit in seamlessly. You know this Galaxy team well. Do you envision this being sort of a seamless, hey, guys, here, meet Zlatan, or do you think it might be a little bit more difficult for some guys to warm up to him?
Well, it's totally up to Zlatan. I know that when David Beckham first came in, and that was in 2007, the league has matured a lot, and the Galaxy has matured a lot and learned a lot from that. But when he first came in, he was obviously the biggest star in the locker room, and he took all the air out of the locker room. The Galaxy took the armband away from Landon Donovan at that time and gave it to David Beckham. That was a disaster. The team was horrible in 2008, David Beckham's first full season here. They really took Bruce Arena coming in and changing that. And one of Bruce Arena's first moves was to sit Landon and David Beckham down together in the same room, force them to work things out. Then he took the armband away from David and gave it to Landon. And that seemed to set things straight. And David learned that he was part of a team. The Galaxy were terrible in their dressing room last year. They fought with each other. The year before that, 2016, they were probably even worse. There were a lot of cliques in the locker room. Players did not get along with one another. Ashley Cole has done a great job in fixing that. Now it's up to Zlatan. If he comes in and decides that it's going to be a disaster, because people now look to Ashley Cole and they totally respect him. I think Zlatan would be well served to at least acknowledge the fact that this is Ashley's team and to give him the respect that he deserves. Ashley Cole has had a fantastic career as well. We're not talking about some kid off the academy team here. I think Zlatan would do a good job if he acknowledged Ashley Cole's leadership, and then I think players would it would be great. They'd love to play with him. If he comes in and tries to take over the team, I think he's going to lose any support that he might have had.
Kevin, just before Andrew gets to a question about the derby, there's been a couple of our listeners have contacted us and they wanted us to ask you about Andre Horta. What can you tell us about his signing for LAFC, and when can he even be expected to arrive?
Well, that's a great question, because it goes to what you talked about earlier, and the league is moving away from these aging European superstars who sell a lot of jerseys. And by the way, we heard that Colorado, they host the Galaxy on August 4th, that in the wake of the Ibrahimovic signing, we've heard that they sold 12,000 single-game tickets already for a game that's in August. So the league is already sort of making money off Zlatan signing. But Horta is a 21-year-old midfielder, a dynamic player, very smart player. He can do a lot of things. He's a great, midfield organizer. He's the kind of player the league is signing now. A guy who maybe doesn't have a big name but has big talent, and is coming to MLS to sort of make his name, and then I think he hopes to return to Europe somewhere. He's coming from Portugal. He may not be here until July. The primary MLS transfer window, as you know, closes May 1st, so he would need to get here by then. But he is playing he's under contract to Benfica, playing for Braga, and there's been some injuries in their midfield, and he stepped in and became a starter and led them. I think they've won 5 of their last 6 games with him starting in midfield. So the team doesn't want to give him up right now. So there's negotiations going on, but it looks like he won't be here until the July window, probably July 10th at the earliest. So he will definitely not going to be here for the derby this weekend.
No, and speaking of that, this derby, I'm very curious about it in terms of, from a buzz perspective. There's obviously the Zlatan move, which we talked about. You've got LAFC off to this great start, 2 games, 2 wins. They're scoring 6 goals. The basketball teams in LA are down right now. Both the Clippers and Lakers are outside of the playoff picture. I mean, is there maybe a little bit more buzz for this game than you might expect?
Yeah, and it definitely, and a lot of that goes to LAFC because they've done a great job of getting the word out. They have that beautiful downtown stadium that everyone sees when they drive through downtown that's just about completed. They've really driven the conversation, and they've really staked out a position exactly opposite of the Galaxy in just about every way. I mean, the Galaxy wear white, LAFC wears black. The Galaxy is a suburban team. They play in Carson. LAFC plays right downtown, and they embrace that sort of gritty downtown urban persona. Galaxy goes with older European players. Their big signing is Ibra, Ashley Cole. LAFC is young players like Diego Rossi and Horta. They're going for the young foreign player. So there couldn't be much more difference between the two teams. And you're right. Right now that baseball season is just getting started. The basketball teams are down. One of the 2 hockey teams probably won't make the playoffs. So this is a good time for this, and the fans have really embraced it. The players have been a little more standoffish. The players are basically saying, this is just the first one. Let's see where it goes. This is not the Merseyside derby just yet. Cool your jets a little bit. But the game is already sold out. It's going to be an overflow crowd, maybe using some of the seats that the LA Chargers use when they play at StubHub Center. The 2 front offices are getting into it, too. This is very interesting. The Galaxy, for most games, make 324 tickets available to visiting fans. visiting supporter groups. That's an entire section at the StubHub Center. When LAFC announced that they would make only the league mandated minimum of of 100 tickets available for the Derby game in their stadium, Bank of California Stadium, the Galaxy decided that they would allow only 100 tickets to go to LAFC supporter groups for this one. So even the two front offices are trading barbs a little bit. And just one more thing, it's interesting that because LAFC is downtown, they've taken to calling the LA Galaxy the Carson Galaxy, where its StubHub Center is located. And so the Galaxy fans are now calling. You could predict this. They're calling LAFC Chivas 2.0.
Oh wow!
Oh, I love it.
That's incredible, and it's already been dubbed El Tráfico instead of El Clásico.
That's a working title. We're in Hollywood. We're used to working titles. Sometimes you begin a project under a working title, and it may become the name of the film. So we'll see how that goes. It used to be El Clásico. Chivas USA and the Galaxy, it was called El Clásico. It was rarely a classic. We know that there will be traffic for this one, so this name is at least a little more accurate than the old one.
Great stuff. LA, kind of the center of the universe right now in the MLS world. Kevin Baxter filling us in a little bit on what's going over there of the LA Times. Thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the call.
Our thanks to Kevin Baxter of the LA Times and Philip O'Connor as well from checking in from Stockholm, Sweden. Great stuff. Great insight from both guys.
Yeah, it was interesting to get both sides of it there. And again, we got a bit of a gem from Philip in terms of the warm and generous Zlatan.
Yeah. Although he didn't really go into the details of that conversation. I guess warm and generous is a relative term.
Right. Well, it's just not what strikes you about Zlatan.
That's true.
Warm and arrogant.
One thing from Kevin that is interesting to me is he's right, and I guess I hadn't. It's so obvious, but I hadn't consciously thought of it. The way LAFC are just going all in on let's do everything completely opposite of what the Galaxy are doing.
Yeah,
it's so true.
It is very true, and it's also probably makes more sense with the way the league is trending too. What would be the point of having like LA Galaxy and then down the street an LA Galaxy, kind of 0.2, which is not really the way the league is going. And that Horta signing, I was watching some videos of him today. That looks really good.
Yeah, I know.
So, it's going to be a weird thing to have a derby in Los Angeles now, but I think
look, we've had it before, but you're right. This one feels, I don't know, this one feels different.
It does feel different, and I think that the fans are going to be really up for it as well. I like the fact that they're already getting petty.
Doesn't it feel? It's got a little bit of the New York Derby feel to it, like the way that they're referring to the Galaxy as the Carson Galaxy.
Right.
I mean, we've heard the same things
the
with
New Jersey
Red Bulls.
Yeah.
So it feels a little bit like that. But hey, it's worked here in New York. I mean, there's always a good amount of buzz around those games. So hopefully LA can replicate that.
Sure.
What do you got there, Buster?
Oh, Andrew, Zidane, Gianluca Vialli, Landon Donovan. Anything in common there?
Baldness.
Yeah. Can you name any other bald footballers of note?
I would say that Iniesta has shown some real male pattern baldness kind of in the channels.
Yeah. He had the power alleys for a while, and now he's gone full. I mean, he just doesn't look like a footballer. He looks like a middle managing or a bank manager or something like that.
He's asking you for your TPS report.
But to be fair, 66% of men lose their hair by age 35 anyway. Pierluigi Collina, did he ever have hair?
Oh, think about it every day.
Yeah, I know. So there's a solution, Andrew. forhims.com is a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness for men. How about that? That's pretty good, right? You know what? It was interesting to me, though, a few years ago. Two Celtic players, Lee Griffiths and Anthony Stokes, both went and got the full hair transplant. But guess what, Andrew? Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. Well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. No snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements. Prescription solutions are backed by science from Hims. And that's got to reassure you when you go into your baldness journey. And
I do hate gas station supplements.
I'll tell you what, they are the worst. When I need a supplement and I'm stuck at a gas station, it just kills me to have to go to it. Yeah. But you can order now. Our listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today, right now while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or pharmacy. Go for hims.com/offside. That's forhims.com/offside. forhims.com/offside. Don't be like Zidane. Don't be like Gianluca Vialli. Don't even be like Anthony Stokes or Lee Griffiths having to go and get it, all sewn into your head. 4 hymns. Brilliant.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Let's see.
It's so convincing.
We've got you've been raving about this mailbag, so you've set a lofty bar. I hope you can live up to it.
We start off with Alec Benson, who is tapping into my deepest fears. Do you think Liverpool will sell Salah if a huge offer comes in from a Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, or will they hold their ground against any club?
You can expound, but I will say no. Not for this. Not for a year.
Right. I think he's going to be there for another year, and the development of the club, and if the club matches his ambitions, and also as well, if he peters or trails off a little bit and kind of reverts to the mean of where his goal scoring club career has been across Roma and Liverpool, I think there's a better chance of holding him long term. But at this,
not that you're rooting for that.
What?
Well, I don't think you want his. Do you want his goal scoring to tail off so as to ensure that he remains a Liverpool player?
No. But it's the classic dilemma. Why do you have to be so good?
Right.
And he is so good right now. But I expect him to taper slightly, because I don't think he's an out and out goal scorer. Although he's proving right now that he's an out and out goal scorer. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm just hoping that we get another season out of him. I expect to. He seems happy as well and contented. And another season. But after that, who knows? Conor McCoy, great show as always, guys. Keep up the good work. Despite not necessarily being part of the US men's national team long-term plans, should veteran players like Bradley, Altidore, etc. be called up again to help mentor, guide and provide some leadership to this, dare I say it, next generation of young talent that has been getting the recent call-ups?
We on our other podcast this week, we do talk a lot more about the US men's national team, so I'll give just a brief answer here. I would say, for now, no. Not for the foreseeable future. Once we roll into 2019 and we start to close in on Copa America and the Gold Cup, competitions that do matter, then we can start circulating some of these players back in. But as we pointed out in the other podcast, they haven't completely abandoned some of the vets on this roster. We talked about Bobby Wood playing, so they are still
25-year-old veteran.
Yeah, well, yes, but a guy who's been a part of the national team for quite some time. So they are still working some of those players in, but for the foreseeable future, I think it's all about scouting young talent. When we get to 2019, we can reconvene with some of the older players.
Got a major dilemma on our hands in our next letter. Jonathan Maciel Penny. I've been a big fan of your pod for about 2 years now. I really enjoy the show.
Uh-oh, here comes a bud.
And foreign/domestic 2-pod format. Keep it up. You're both a hoot. This is a serious dilemma. I have a dilemma, a major one, and I thought you two would definitely have a good take and help steer me in the right direction. I am in my 3rd season as a Red Bull season ticket holder and have been regularly attending games since 2011. I have already purchased my tickets to see RBNY take on Guadalajara.
Oh no, I'm nervous.
However, my mother is from Guadalajara and Chivas is our team. It's been our team long before I paid attention to MLS. I have been to their stadium to watch games too. I own both Chivas jerseys and a Red Bull jersey. I didn't come to MLS until after I've gotten into Mexican and even European football first. While I root for both US men's national team and L3, I root for L3 when they play the US men's national team, though I don't think that should necessarily apply to this scenario. I have absolutely no idea who to root for. It's tearing me apart. I know Red Bull Arena is going to be 75% Chivas on April 10th. And it seems wrong to root against my team in their own arena. Though Chivas are at least equally my team. My fiancée, who comes to most all the games with me, says she'll obviously be rooting for the Red Bulls, but she said she wouldn't blame me for picking Chivas since she rooted for Chelsea, her first love, against RBI. Oh, that doesn't count. That was a friendly. Stop, dude. Help me, boys. Help me.
This really
I know you'll come through and give me some direction.
Well,
wow.
I feel like he wants us to tell him a certain thing.
Oh, I feel like he's angling towards Chivas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was getting the opposite sense. Here, I mean, I can only think of what I would do if I was in his situation. So let's say I moved, everybody who listens to this podcast knows I'm from Philadelphia and I love the Philadelphia teams. If I moved to Spain and, I took up, rooting for the Barcelona basketball team, FC Barcelona, and then let's say by whatever circumstance the Sixers came to play FC Barcelona in a competition that mattered.
Right.
Even though maybe I had gotten tickets for Barcelona at that point, my heart and my roots and my upbringing were with the Sixers. And I can't ever envision a scenario where I wouldn't root for them. So I know it's going to sting. maybe you sit this out. I might say, you know what, sell your tickets to this game and don't surround yourself with the stress.
No, it's so unique to have a major game that matters.
Then I would tell him I think Chivas is the team that he has to root for.
I think he's been a third season as a Red Bull season ticket holder. That to me is a commitment, and it's a commitment, an ongoing commitment.
But his roots, JJ.
I know, and roots are really important. This just shows you the dilemma of this stuff.
This question has actually made me very uncomfortable.
Why are you uncomfortable?
I just feel very uncomfortable. I'm getting like anxiety, and I don't like this.
No,
I can feel his pain.
I do, and I get it. But look, you've got your mother supporting them. I think you've made a commitment to the Red Bulls. They're the team you're going to see most regularly over the next few years, unless you decide to move to Mexico. I don't know.
So we've offered him no help. We both gave
I think
polar opposite answers.
No, it's at home. He's worried about he's going to be in the minority. I'll tell you what, Red Bull Arena, it's not been filling up this season at all, and I think he's right. I think Chivas are going to overtake that place, and then it's going to feel... How's he going to feel then? Going back for a regular season game after defecting for a... This is the biggest game of the season, in my view.
But if this is the team he grew up rooting for, you're right. There's no easy answer here. I don't know. He probably never envisioned something like this happening.
No, because usually MLS are hot trash in the CONCACAF Champions League. Okay,
I hope that was mildly helpful.
Well, I'm just telling him go with the Red Bulls, but
and I'm telling him go with Chivas.
That is tough. Andrew Zwillinger, one. Which is going to be the biggest overreaction? Andrew overreacting to the US winning a meaningless friendly?
No. If you heard the other podcast, come on.
All right, that's on the other pad. Or two, JJ overreacting to UEFA killing the cup tie rule.
That was also addressed on the other pod.
Okay, so I
would tell you to download that podcast. It sounds like Andrew Zwillinger will love the other podcast.
Gabe, hey guys, big fan of the pod. My question is, what is Zidane doing wrong with Isco? Whenever he plays for Spain, he looks like one of the three best players in the world, but when he plays for Real, he doesn't even look better than Lucas Vazquez or Kovacic. Thanks if you answer. Oh, we always answer. Keep up the great work. Lucas Vazquez or Kovacic.
Well, by Isco's own admittance, he talked about not really going into Real Madrid performances with the same level of confidence that he does for his national team.
By the way,
he seems like a classic country over club guy right now.
First of all, and I'm sure we'll get to this on the other pod as well, but Isco is a brilliant player, and started the season relatively brightly, or with enough games anyway, and kind of his time has been a bit limited since Gareth Bale got fit again, but he's in and out of the side, and I know he's not happy with that. And that's probably the issue at Real Madrid.
Yeah, and I'm sure maybe he's a guy whose confidence is affected by looking over his shoulder every time he makes a mistake. When you know that Gareth Bale and the money that Real Madrid doled out to bring Bale to the Bernabeu, when you know that that's on the sidelines breathing down your neck and you make a mistake, that some guys may not cope well with that, and maybe Isco is one of those guys. Maybe he just feels his place on the Spanish side is way more set in stone as opposed to with Madrid.
Also, against Argentina, the Argentinian defender was so pathetic, and there was so much space. Isco did things he'd probably never get the chance to do in a halfway decent La Liga game, or one of the top La Liga games. And also, he's fighting for places at Madrid in a way that he isn't in the Spanish team. But look, I think he alluded to it. He wants more minutes. He wants to be a regular mainstay in the Real Madrid team, and he's not 100% that. So that's probably where it comes from. Finally, Fabio. Hey guys, listener here from Seattle. I hear you talk loads about dramas you are watching, but what comedies do you love? What are your favourites to watch? If you have any streamable ones, all the better.
Well, the problem is I don't feel like I have a lot of current ones right now. We talk all the time. We make Office references all the time. I'm going back and rewatching for like the 7th or 8th time Arrested Development right now.
I've got one straight off the bat that I don't talk about because you haven't seen it. It's a British-based comedy from Mitchell and Webb. It's called Peep Show, and I've
heard of that.
Peep Show, and it's on Hulu, and it's probably my favorite comedy of all time outside the British Office. It's hilarious, guys. Once you get in on it, on the concept of it, it's just brilliant.
But in terms of current comedy, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot. I don't have very many right now.
No,
I used to love 30 Rock. Obviously, Seinfeld. We talk about that all the time. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I can't provide a ton of help.
If you're into animated comedies, F is for Family. That's very good. That's on Netflix.
Okay.
That's very good with Bill Burr.
Well, there you go. As always, that's it for the mailbag.
That is the mailbag.
That is it. At CO Soccer Pod on Twitter, caughtoffsidepod@gmail.com. Before we get to what to watch for, I just want to remind everybody, to all you sports fans, did you know you can stream this podcast on Spotify right now? That's huge.
I did know that. I told everyone.
Well, I'm re-emphasizing it. Don't you see what's happening here? It's easy. Open the app on your mobile device or desktop, click the Browse channel, then click on the podcast section. You can also stream on your smart speaker. Now it's much easier for you to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest in all things sports, thanks to Spotify.
You can also stream it on your watch. Look at that. I'm going to tweet that picture out. That's a friend of mine who's got the, I guess it's the Samsung watch, and Caught Offside just pops up on it.
That's awesome. Very cool. What to watch for? Oh, yeah. I mean, don't you love when we get to hear this? EPL, back for more. It is, after an international break, Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Crystal Palace and Liverpool at Selhurst, the scene of the crime from all those years ago.
Oh my God, the emotions. Good
the
Lord.
Groan.
Now look, I will repeat this, that it was lost at Anfield, but it was compounded and completely lost when that 3-3 happened.
Let's see, you guys right now holding down third place, 2 points up on Spurs with a game at hand. It's going to be close. This race for top four, it's going to be very interesting. Although another game that we'll get to in a moment will have a potentially large bearing on how it all is going to play out. Saturday, 12:30, Everton and Manchester City, the John Stones Cup, as it is referred to by many. City, whatever. I'm looking more at Everton. I'm very curious how Everton's going to finish the season, because there's been so much negativity around them this year, and Lord knows we've documented a lot of it. But they are ninth. They are top half of the table. Now, it doesn't feel that way.
And I'll tell you, you don't want to tell the fan, hey,
no.
You are ninth, because they are really done with Alardici already.
And like we always say, that was never going to be a long-term appointment. But Everton, they are coming off 3 straight wins. 2 straight. They lost to Burnley, but then beat Brighton and beat Stoke. Games that you would typically expect an Everton side to win. This one is going to be a challenge. Manchester City, it is, of course, at home, but I don't know. Now, remember, early in the season, Everton actually did draw City 1-1 at the
crazy.
Etihad, so.
And remember, we were talking about, I like that screening too of Gay and Schneiderlin, I think it was, that played in that game in front of the back four, and I remember being very impressed by that 1-1. Little did I know.
No, then things all went downhill. And then Sunday, 11 a.m., I kind of alluded to this, but this is really the big one this weekend. It's Chelsea, Tottenham at Stamford Bridge. If we're talking about top four, right now Tottenham, like I said, in that 4th spot.
See the way I didn't bring up 2 seasons ago what happened when you guys played there. I didn't say anything when there was just the Tottenham collapse. Didn't mention it. So...
am I to believe that this doesn't count as mentioning it?
Oh, it is.
Oh, I see. It's been their matchup earlier this season. This was kind of the peak. I guess the next week against Burnley, but this was sort of the, oh my God, Spurs will never win at Wembley. This season is going to be a disaster. Get us to the new White Hart Lane already. I mean, the way that this game played out, the Marcos Alonso goals. I mean, remember this?
He got 2, didn't he?
Yeah. Remember, this was the game where I told you that I was watching it on DVR as like these kind of acquaintances came in.
Oh yeah,
and just like in my most angry moment, they come in and I now had to fake it and all that. But this is a huge game, more so for Chelsea, I would say. If Tottenham win this game, they're not going to build. They will build their lead up over Chelsea for that 4th spot. Let's see, right now I'm looking at it. It's a 5-point advantage for Spurs right now, so it will become an 8-point gap should Tottenham win this game straight out. Not an easy task. Spurs don't typically win at Stamford Bridge. That is just like not a thing that typically happens, but we'll see. Tottenham in pretty good form. Chelsea kind of shaken a little bit.
It's going to be interesting because Chelsea finishing in a top 4 position for Champions League is going to influence the next manager they get. the next manager they get may not want to be rebuilding a team that's outside of the Champions League. So I'd be very curious to see how this one goes.
Yeah, as will I, that is for sure. MLS, we mentioned this earlier with Kevin Baxter, but we'll give a quick thought on here. Saturday, 3:30, that is when it takes place at the StubHub Center, LA Galaxy and LAFC. El Trafico, as you so cleverly referred to it.
I didn't come up with that, someone else
It was
did.
all JJ.
3-1 LAFC.
Wow. 2 games, 2 wins for them. 6 goals they've scored. I mean, they're doing all the things in a time of unsteadiness for LA Galaxy, who have obviously ruled that town for decades now. LAFC are trying very hard to make an impact very quickly, and I would say they're kind of doing it. They're doing all the right things. Like Kevin said, the downtown stadium, everything opposite of what the Galaxy are doing. I'm very curious about this game. We're going to have our Jump to Conclusions week probably next week. We've been holding off because so many teams in MLS have still only played 2 games, so we don't want to do it just yet. But I don't know, man. If LAFC go to the Galaxy and win this game, you're going to have to start kind of thinking some things about this LAFC team.
I'm already thinking those things.
Oh.
And you called
Welcome
it early.
aboard.
You called it early, very early.
Yes. And then Bundesliga, Saturday, 12:30, Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. What do you think? Excited?
Is this a year for excitement in this game?
No. Well, look, it always is because it's always a great atmosphere and there's a lot of talent on display. But right now, Bayern, it's the same thing that City are doing to the EPL. Bayern are doing, obviously, to the Bundesliga. Schalke have moved ahead of Borussia Dortmund in the league. Schalke are in second. Dortmund are in third.
I mean, they trail by 18 points.
Yeah. No, this has no bearing on anything like that.
I mean, here's the thing. Going into the game with Sevilla next week, it's kind of important that Munich have a good performance. They had that wobble against Leipzig, so maybe they want to get the momentum. But I'm finding it very hard with that gap to be enthusiastic at all about.
Well,
this
if you're looking for things to cling to, how about this? Leverkusen right now are in 5th, Frankfurt in 4th, Dortmund in 3rd. But the gap between Leverkusen and Dortmund for that Champions League spot, it's only a 4-point margin. So there's a jumble of clubs from 2nd to 5th right now in the Bundesliga. So, if Bayern Munich do take care of Borussia Dortmund, and let's say Leverkusen do go on and win this weekend, and Frankfurt win this weekend, it's going to start to get very, very hairy and scary for this Dortmund side when you're talking about Champions League places. Yeah. Ultimately, I do believe that they have the talent and they'll overcome, but it's getting late early, as was it Yogi Berra that said that?
Yeah, and the manager, I mean, the rumour swirling around Peter Stoger is that he won't be there next season. So, I mean, I suppose he would really like to win this one to prove those naysayers wrong.
Yep. Yeah. So there you go. That is our pod for the week. Like I said, we've got another one out. Lots of U.S. men's national team talk in the wake of that 1-0 Paraguay victory. So we get into that. Some other things that happened in the internationals. Make sure you check it out. I thought it was really fine work.
One thing before we go, best of luck to Kristen Press, who's going the opposite direction to Zlatan and has joined Gothenburg to play. She's not going to play in the NWSL this season, which is a little bit weird.
Unfortunate for the league, but
unfortunate the way it went down with Houston as well. But I think she's much happier in the direction she's going, so good luck to her.
Yeah, and good shout by you. So there you go. Hey, good stuff, my friend. To you I say,
take it later, fun boy.
I'll see you.
Take care.
You've been listening to the Caught Offside Soccer Podcast.